In the beginning of March, I started working for my friend as his caregiver. I started working full-time. I'm going to skip through the 2 months that I spent in his home because the details have been documented, recorded, and shared with police, Adult Protective Services, and all of the courts. I'm going to be very general because I don't know what I can say on this app. And I don't want to give away any of the ways that I found out information or gathered evidence because I don't want to ever put him in danger. But in those 2 months, I witnessed his mom verbally and mentally abusing him. I witnessed her become angry and force him onto his back like a turtle and make him stay there. As punishment, I witnessed him being restricted from using communication devices that he used for 15 years. I saw evidence in documents that she left for caregivers that said you need to let us know if he says anything that's not Christian, that's sexual or that's not Christian, so he can receive discipline. And I discovered that he's being financially exploited not only by his parents but by a charity who's exploiting vulnerable adults, taking their SS money and not doing what they say they're doing with it. I found evidence of this. I found out on my third day. The first 2 days I didn't perform pericare. I never saw him undressed. On the third day I did. And I told you that in the last episode that he and I had been intimate in school. So we're familiar with each other's anatomy. We were very intimate in every way in school many times, okay? After his accident, I hadn't seen him for those 17 years. And on the third day, I undressed him to perform pericare, which, if you don't know, is just perineum cleaning his perineum, his privates. And his member had been cut off and reattached. And I saw it and I looked at him and he signed yes. He just stared at me and he was like, that's what he was trying to get me to look at when he was pointing those 2 times I came to his house. And I wouldn't take his pants off because I was like, no. His member had been removed and surgically reattached. It's disfigured. It's mangled and sewn up. You could see the sutures. It looked like it was sewn up with yarn. This giant scarring. And he had a normal sized member and now it was an inch just sticking out of his body. By that point, I had already been informed that there was a nanny cam in his room that had audio, which I found out, but wasn't disclosed. I wasn't supposed to know. And so I couldn't just openly ask him, what the fuck? And I was never allowed to be alone with him. We were only in the house with audio, or we had to ride the bus where his mom planned the bus based on a church member she knew driving it. And then anywhere we went, which was only once or twice a week, to one library or one cafe, there was always someone there to supervise us. So he could never speak to me openly. And I'm not going to explain how we did communicate. But when people know each other a long time and they know each other well, they find ways to communicate, and we did. A lot happened. I tried to gather information. I found out that he had also been subjected to violent and psychologically damaging conversion therapy. I found out the groups that perform it. I found out that it goes through his church, and the church is a nationwide church. It's massive. And it works in a joint effort with a TBI support group. And those 2 entities are also connected to the charity. They're connected to another group called Brain Energy Support Team. And they do all kinds of stuff with disabled people to exploit them. They use them. I found out that he'd been SA'd by his pastor and that his family knew and they just didn't want anybody to know. They didn't report it or protect him. And then in mid-April, I decided I needed to, I contacted APS and I was like, okay, so it was a very difficult situation because he had to use sign language to speak and he had to spell out what he was saying. And he's very vulnerable, like physically. And so if I wasn't there when APS showed up to do a surprise interview, there's no guarantee that he'd be able to communicate. They would just say, oh yeah, he's not all there. He can't talk. So I needed to try to figure out a way to get them there when I was there. And when I called them, they said they wouldn't guarantee that. They wouldn't help. They weren't working with me. So I took him to the cafe and I said, look, we need to figure out what to do. I need to record everything. We need to document everything. And while I was trying to secretly talk to him about this, the person who was there observing us came up with her phone and caught us. I was writing things down and she caught us. I was writing down having him like point to words like of types of abuse and stuff to just get like a straight answer about stuff. She caught us, and the next day when I came to his house, I was assaulted and threatened and made to believe that if I told anybody anything, it'd be really, really bad. And I'm not going to talk about that any further here.